Okay, I thought this would be a pretty interesting time actually to start asking some questions to the judges, because I'd be curious asking these three experts over here, what are you looking for? You know, when you listen to ideas and people pitch, is it the idea? Is it the degree to which, you know, they've actually thought through the answers? Is it the branding? Is it the personality? If I was to ask you guys, what is it you look for? The first thing you look for is a microphone.
Yeah, I'll go first. Yes. I think from my perspective, it's the capacity to get from point A to point B, and I think that's quite a common thing that investors, angel investors, you know, venture capitalists and so forth are looking for. You know, big ideas are few and far between. That's the reality. The capacity to actually take something that's maybe a slight innovation, but then execute on it is one of the most powerful things. So I think that that's one of the keys to a to a successful business model or an early stage startup is the how they're actually going to step through. So you'll see investors test that a lot, and not about the specifics. Okay, you're predicting what might happen in 3 to 4 or 5 years, but have you thought about it?
Right.
And have you thought about the traps? Have you thought about all those little things that are going to come up? Because they're the things that are actually going to catch you out. And as great as the idea might be, you're just actually not going to be able to execute it.
So does it make it more attractive if the person pitching the idea would say, actually, we have thought about that, and we can answer some of these questions, but not all of them, but we're investigating. The fact that they've actually been aware of what the issues might be and are researching them, is that more reassuring than if they said, that never occurred to me, that was the thing?
It can be reassuring, but it might not be. It depends upon the nature of the question, or the specific area that you're asking about. But actually being prepared, so I think that I'd mentioned that in feedback to one of the others, is the stepping through and actually thinking through that is really, really critical.
Yeah.
And thinking about all of the worst case scenarios of what if they ask me this, what if they ask me that.
Yeah.
Be prepared, because Murphy's Law usually prevails and they probably will ask you that. So it's good to be prepared.
Somebody asked Neil Armstrong what was the most dangerous part of going to the moon. He said anything we haven't thought of is the most dangerous part of going to the moon. And I think that's true with pitches.
Yeah.
How about you, Philippa? What are you looking for?
Well, I think in addition to the idea itself, I'm quite persuaded by the presentation and the engagement with the audience, so the personal touch and the clarity with which people can speak.
So those two did pretty well, didn't they?
They did. They did.
I was buying everything.
And I think it's also really useful if people have got a prototype or something we can see and touch, or a picture on the screen to actually, show us rather than tell us.
So was that useful then to see the little model adapt bots? I know yours were the tiny micro ones that you get in your cornflakes, but you could see a model of what they were talking about.
That's right. Yes, that's useful.
How about you, Ryan?
I'd agree with both Nick and Philippa. I think the one thing that's really important is to show why this team can execute upon this idea. Lots of different teams, lots of different ideas out there. But if you can show that you've done something as opposed to have an idea and talk about it, it means a lot more. The other thing that's really important is to be able to articulate pretty succinctly and clearly what you'd like to do. Generally, when you've got only a short amount of time to present your idea, it's important to be really articulate. And the last thing was, kind of following on from Nick, but it's a personal hate of mine, is there are some things you always need to know the answers to. If you ask somebody what their last month's revenues figures are and they don't know it, that's a massive warning sign. But the worst possible thing you could do is make something up on the spot. If you don't know the answer, like you said, go back, find out what it is and say, look, I'll get back to you. But the worst possible thing you could do is say, make it up on the spot, which I've seen more than I would like to admit.
How important is confidence? That you've got someone up there who seems very sure and very convinced in their own self. Is that a powerful thing? Confidence
is important, but it's surprising the amount of people who aren't confident who have really good startups. So sometimes if you have a good salesperson, they could sell anything up there. But sometimes we have to do a little bit of digging, and I'm sure all of us have, to see whether the nugget of gold is in someone's idea and how they're presenting it. Because sometimes a lot of people do their best to hide what's a pretty good startup.
Yeah.
I'll add to that. There's sort of a bit of a trend at the moment, I guess, in the startup space around sort of the CEO for hire or the gun for hire. Someone you bring in and they're full of confidence, brimming with pitch and all of that, but actually they're not the person who's going to be executing on the business idea. So you want to connect with the people that that really matter, that are going to be there for the long haul. Say that, look at Mark Zuckerberg. I don't think that he'd necessarily be the best presenter or the most sort of outgoing bloke, but he was really, really passionate about his idea, and that's, for me, one of the things that I think is really important. Confidence aside is passion for the idea and the capacity to sort of harness that and actually make something out of it. Yeah. Going back to what Rowan was said about winging it as well, I should actually pay more attention to that because.
Philip, did you have something to say about that? One last question before dinner. When you've all pitched yourselves, what's been the biggest mistake you've made in getting in front of people and pitching an idea where you think, oh my God, I would never do that again? What was the sort of the big key mistake?
Getting too technical. So trying to make it, thinking that you need to pitch the most complex, most outstanding vision, and it needs to be sort of all singing, all dancing. You need to really make it simple and memorable, and get to be able to display again the passion that you have for whatever it is. I mean, it could be a pitch like we're doing tonight, or it could be just in your business life or day-to-day work or whatever it might be. But I think if you can unlock that, that makes for really powerful presenting and engaging, and you can get your idea across.
Yeah. I would say one thing on a sales pitch to a customer, it is so much more beneficial if you listen to what the customer's problems are first, as opposed to just jumping there with what your solution is. So we learned that pretty hard, the hard way, but early on we did that, and the results are a lot better once you actually listen to what their problems are and you can tailor your pitch to what their needs are.
Yeah. This will be hard to believe, but when I was young, I was actually quite cocky, and I know, it's hard to imagine. And I used to go into pitches and I'd say, hey, it's me and it's terrific, it's fantastic. And that worked most times. And then the person I was going to pitch to was a friend of mine, so I actually didn't prepare. I thought, oh, this is easy. We have lunch together, it'll be fine. She was sick. She wasn't in that day, and her boss was there. And of course, I'm doing my, hey, I'm here, isn't it terrific, Mr. Party Time? And she said, I only have 3 questions. My first question is, who the hell are you? And I thought, okay, not going well. And she said, what do you possibly have to offer me? And what do you want? And I remember thinking, if I could just give her $50 and disappear and go, look, I wasn't here, pretend it never, ever happened. So that was that thing I just learned. If I don't know who the hell am I, what do I want, and what am I giving, I don't need to be there. You have the same experience with you guys?
We've had a lot of people come to us and they just haven't got their audio visual sorted out. So we spent 5 of the 10 minutes or whatever with them fluffing around trying to get their slides up. And I've done the same myself. You just can't get the technology to start. So give up, just talk. Yeah. And in fact, if you can do it without your PowerPoint, that's even better anyway. But I think my worst stuff up is actually getting somebody's name wrong.
Yeah, it's a bad look. Hey, do you think we've got an expert panel over here? Can we give them some love? All right.